I always knew I was different from my siblings. Not just because I got the highest marks in school or because I didn't crave attention like they did. I had ambition. Real ambition. While they were busy chasing boys and gossiping about neighbors, I was drawing up business plans in my room and researching scholarships online. My name is Eloise Hartley, and from the very start, I was the one everyone said would go far. That's why I never suspected they'd be the ones to stop me. Growing up in a small town in Southport, everything was plain. The houses looked the same. The dreams were small. But I dreamed of London. I wanted to see the skyline, the tall glass buildings, the sound of ambition humming through the air. My parents always said, "Don't fly too high, Eloise, or you'll burn your wings." I thought they were just being careful. But maybe they knew something I didn't. Or maybe they were warning me, in their own twisted way, not to outshine the rest. The moment everything started to crumble was the day I got the offer. A top university in London. Full scholarship. Business management. I remember screaming, crying, holding the acceptance letter to my chest like it was gold. I had made it. I thought they'd all be happy for me. But my mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. My older sister, Ava, barely even congratulated me. My younger brother, Liam, muttered something about people thinking they're better than others now. I told myself they were just shocked. But something deeper was brewing. 3 weeks before I was meant to leave for London, everything changed. It was a Sunday morning when 2 police officers knocked on our front door. I was still in my dressing gown when they asked if I was Eloise Hartley. My mum stood behind them, eyes wide, lips trembling. I thought maybe someone had died. But then the taller officer said, "You're under arrest for fraud and identity theft." I laughed. I genuinely thought it was some sick joke. But then I saw Ava, standing at the top of the stairs, holding her phone, recording, smiling. In that moment, I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. I was taken down to the station, questioned for hours. Apparently, someone had opened several credit card accounts in our neighbors' names and drained the funds. The accounts were linked to my email address, my laptop, my handwriting. It was like someone had copied me exactly. They had every piece of evidence. All of it pointed to me. But I hadn't done any of it. I told them I was innocent. I begged them to believe me. But the case was tight. Too tight. The hardest part wasn't the handcuffs, or the shame, or even the cell. It was realizing my family hadn't come to see me. Not once. Not during the trial. Not after the sentence. 5 years. That was what the judge gave me. I looked around the courtroom that day, hoping, just hoping, to see someone who believed in me. But my seat was empty. No mother. No sister. No brother. Just cold, empty silence. That was the day I stopped trusting anyone. Prison wasn't what I feared the most. It was the silence. The unanswered questions. The betrayal. Every night, I replayed that morning in my head. How calm Ava looked, how my mother didn't defend me, how Liam stood behind the officers like a ghost. It haunted me. The guards treated me like I was just another girl who got greedy. My cellmate, Denise, was loud and messy, but kind. She told me prison changes people. I didn't want to change. I wanted answers. But answers were luxury in prison. I spent days writing letters to my family, pleading, begging, not for forgiveness, but for the truth. I knew I didn't do it. But someone did. And they wanted me gone. I started noticing patterns. The way my case moved quickly. The way evidence had been so easily found. Someone had planned it. But why? What had I done that made my own blood turn on me? Then, 6 months in, Denise came to me with a torn piece of newspaper. It was an article about Ava, my sister. She had opened a fashion boutique in town. The same business I had once written a plan for. Word for word. Her business pitch matched mine. Even the name, ELO Vogue. She used my dream. My name. My plan. That's when I knew. Ava set me up. The betrayal hit like a punch to the chest. Ava was jealous. Always had been. But this? This was wickedness. I started connecting the dots. The credit card scam. The accounts. The laptop. Ava had access to everything. She used to borrow my laptop all the time. She must have planted the evidence. And my mother? She knew. That's why she never came to court. She chose Ava over me. But the worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was realizing how easy it was for them to destroy me. They didn't even blink. I became obsessed with the truth. I started planning from inside my cell. If they could destroy me from outside, I could rebuild myself from within. My sentence wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I was going to get out, and when I did, I was going to show them they locked up the wrong woman. And maybe, just maybe, they'd regret underestimating me. One rainy evening, nearly 2 years into my sentence, a new prison librarian started work at the facility. His name was Thomas. Quiet, smart-looking, with eyes that studied you too long. I avoided him at first. I didn't trust anyone. But one day, I saw him reading my case file. Not just flipping through. It was like he was investigating it. My heart raced. He later approached me during library hour. "Eloise Hartley," he said softly, "I believe you're innocent." I froze. No one had said those words to me before. Not once. I stared at him, thinking it was a cruel joke. But then he pulled out a photo, an old-school photo of Ava and I, with scribbled notes on the back. "I went to school with your sister," he whispered. "She's clever but dangerous." Thomas had been studying law before becoming a prison librarian. He had been following high-profile wrongful conviction cases, and mine stood out. He believed Ava forged the documents and planted the evidence. He even managed to trace the fake accounts. Some were created using Ava's IP address. But it wasn't enough for court. We needed more. Something undeniable. For the first time in years I felt hope. Someone believed me. Thomas started visiting regularly, helping me organize documents, creating a timeline, gathering proof. We worked like a team. I wrote a letter to a journalist anonymously, detailing the case and the inconsistencies. It got published in a small online blog, but it caught the attention of an investigator named Margaret Fielding. She reached out. Margaret was fierce and no-nonsense. She didn't smile much, but she was passionate about justice. With Thomas's help, we shared everything we had. She reopened the case unofficially, starting to dig around Ava's records, interviewing people quietly. And that's when we found the first crack. Ava had paid off a friend, someone named Jordan, who worked at the bank where the fake accounts were created. He'd suddenly gone abroad after I was arrested. But he returned last month, broke and desperate. Margaret tracked him down. He confessed in a voice note. Said Ava asked him to create fake accounts in our neighbors' names and pin it on me. It was enough to reopen the case officially. With new evidence, my solicitor applied for an appeal. The prison buzzed with whispers. Some guards began to treat me differently, like they regretted assuming the worst. My name was in the news again. This time, not as a criminal, but as a woman who might have been framed. Ava, of course, denied everything. She gave interviews, cried on camera, said I was mentally unstable and bitter. She played the victim well. But cracks began to show. People from our past came forward. Teachers, neighbors, old friends, saying they always saw envy in her eyes when it came to me. One day, just before my appeal hearing, I got a letter. No name. No return address. Just 10 words on plain paper. Your mother knew. She was part of the plan. I nearly dropped the letter. My heart pounded. I hadn't wanted to believe my mother was involved. Maybe she stayed away out of shame. But now, the truth was uglier than I imagined. My own mother helped ruin me, just to lift Ava up. The court date arrived. Margaret and Thomas presented the new evidence. The judge reviewed the voice recording, the timeline, the forged signatures. Ava was subpoenaed. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. She stumbled over her words. Lied under oath. And when Margaret played the voice note of Jordan's confession, Ava burst into tears. The court ordered a review. I was granted release pending final decision. After 3 years in prison, I stepped into sunlight again. Free, but not yet whole. I had lost time, dignity, and faith. But I was free. And I was not going to waste it. Coming back home wasn't the relief I expected. Southport hadn't changed, but I had. I was no longer the girl who dreamed of the city. I was a woman who had survived betrayal, prison, and humiliation. The air felt different. Heavy. Like secrets still lingered. I didn't go back to our family house. I couldn't. I stayed with Margaret for a while. She had a small guest room filled with old case files and the smell of strong tea. It was perfect. But curiosity dragged me back. I had to see them. I had to look into their eyes and see if they felt even a sliver of guilt. I stood outside the house for 10 minutes before knocking. Ava opened the door. Her face dropped like she'd seen a ghost. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Too bad," I said. "I'm already here." Inside, Mum was seated like a queen, clutching her mug like a shield. Liam stood behind her, arms folded, like he'd been waiting for a fight. The tension in the room crackled. I didn't come for small talk. I came for answers. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Why did you all throw me away like rubbish?" Mum said nothing. Ava just cried. "But Liam." Liam laughed. "You always thought you were better than us. Always making us feel small. You were the golden child. Eloise. Everything came easy for you. You were going to leave us behind. And we couldn't let that happen." I stared at him, my own brother. "So you destroyed my life?" "It was Ava's idea," he said, like it made it better. "Mum only agreed because she thought you'd forgive us someday." "Forgive you?" I said, trembling. "You had me locked in a cage for 3 years." Ava stepped forward. "I didn't know it would go that far, okay? I just wanted to teach you a lesson. To humble you." I couldn't speak. My chest burned. My vision blurred. These were not my family. These were strangers. Monsters wearing familiar faces. I turned and left without another word. But in my heart, I made a vow. They wanted me humbled. I'd return not just stronger, but unstoppable. And I would never forgive them. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, planning, plotting. Not revenge through violence, but through power. I would take back everything they stole from me, and more. I started with the media. Margaret helped arrange a TV interview. I told my story. Raw, emotional, and unfiltered. I showed documents, shared my prison diaries, and exposed every lie Ava had ever told. The public was outraged. Hashtags trended. People called for Ava to be investigated. Her boutique? Boycotted. She lost half her clients in a week. Sponsors pulled out. Liam lost his job after his employer saw the news. Mum couldn't walk into church without whispers following her. The same silence they gave me in court, I returned to them in public shame. But it wasn't enough. I needed justice. I filed a civil suit against Ava, Liam, and my mother for emotional damage, defamation, and malicious conspiracy. They laughed at first, until the court agreed to hear the case. Ava tried to settle quietly. I refused. I wanted the world to see them crumble like they made me crumble. During the hearings, more secrets spilled. Turns out, Ava used the stolen credit to fund her boutique. My business plan wasn't the only thing she stole. She'd even forged applications to win small business grants in my name. Mum had signed the forms. The judge's face said it all. Disgust. The verdict? They were found guilty. They were ordered to pay me over £150,000 in damages. But the money wasn't the victory. The victory was watching them walk out of the courtroom, shamed, broke, and exposed. I walked out free. Head high. Soul fierce. Just when I thought the worst was over, I got a call from Margaret. "You need to see this," she said. I met her at her office. On her desk was a DNA report. "We found something strange while digging through Ava's grant applications," she said. "She submitted a fake birth certificate once. We investigated." She slid the file to me. The results shook me to my core. Ava and Liam were not my full siblings. My mother was not my biological mother. I staggered back. "What do you mean?" Margaret sighed. "You were adopted. At 3 months old. They never told you. They forged your documents to hide it. We found the original adoption record." Everything spun. All the jealousy. The coldness. The strange way Mum always kept me at arm's length. It made sense now. I wasn't her child. I was never meant to outshine her real children. And when I did, they made sure to break me. I cried harder than I ever had. Not just from pain, but from relief. I wasn't theirs. My heart belonged to someone else. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there had once loved me enough to let me go. Margaret offered to help me search for my birth parents. But first I had to heal. I had to breathe. I wasn't Eloise Hartley, the criminal. I wasn't even Eloise Hartley, the daughter. I was Eloise. And I was finally free to become who I was meant to be. 3 years later, I now stand on a stage in London, in a building with glass walls and high ceilings, just like I once dreamed. I run my own company. Real estate. Women-led. I help ex-prisoners find housing and jobs. I use my pain to build others. The very stone they threw at me, I turned it into a throne. My story became a book. A bestseller. People ask me if I've forgiven my family. The truth? No. And I don't have to. Forgiveness is a choice. And my peace doesn't depend on it. I never contacted my birth parents. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. But I found something better than blood. I found purpose. I sometimes think back to that girl in the dressing gown, standing confused at the door with handcuffs waiting. She had no idea the hell ahead. But I'm proud of her. Because she didn't die in that cell. She rose. To any girl out there who's been betrayed, broken, or buried, don't just survive. Rise. And make them regret ever trying to dim your light.